Welcome to Mr. Disturbing. Tonight we are plunging into the dark heart of the Appalachian Mountains with some truly unsettling true horror stories that will keep you up all night, if you're brave enough. Smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next descent into fear. Now, get comfortable, relax. My name is Ethan. I am 32 years old. I'm a wildlife photographer from Richmond, Virginia. I came to the Appalachian Mountains for isolation. The endless rush of city life left me worn. I sought solitude among silent trees, distant birdsong, and rustling leaves. Nature, I thought, could heal my restless mind. My cabin was simple, nestled among thick oaks and maples. At first, all felt calm and familiar. Each morning, fog settled gently between trunks. It swirled softly, cool and damp. Against my skin, I welcomed it, camera in hand, capturing the whispered beauty of dawn. Days passed slowly and peacefully. Nights were filled with the gentle patter of rain on tin roofs. My dreams became vivid but comforting, images of deep forests and ancient mountains drifting lazily through my sleep. It was on my 5th day that I first sensed something unusual. I walked a familiar trail in fading daylight. A strange quietness enveloped the woods. The birds ceased singing suddenly, replaced by a deep silence that hummed in my ears. The hairs on my arms stood gently. Something unseen brushed against my senses, quiet but persistent. I paused, listening carefully. There was a soft rustle in the undergrowth, slow and deliberate. I scanned the shadows but saw nothing. Returning to the cabin, I felt eyes upon me, unseen but heavy, a subtle pressure following closely behind. That night, sleep evaded me. Every creak of timber and whisper of wind seemed heightened. I heard a low rhythmic tapping outside, gentle but insistent, like fingertips drumming on wet wood. I checked, but there was only darkness and wet earth. In the days following, subtle unease bloomed into sharper worry. Each morning, I found faint trails of footprints circling the cabin, half hidden by fallen leaves and damp soil. They were thin, elongated, unnatural. No animal I knew could leave such marks. My camera, placed carefully each night, recorded only static or distorted shapes, blurred and indistinct. Images that held no clarity yet unsettled deeply. Even my trusted equipment seemed to sense the strangeness around me. Isolation began to grip me tighter. The serenity I had sought transformed into quiet dread. The trees appeared darker, their limbs twisting oddly, reaching out like long fingers toward the cabin. Shadows seemed thicker, more dense, lingering in corners longer than natural. One evening, as twilight cloaked the mountains in gray, I stood on the porch, breathing cool air tinged with moss and damp bark. A distant melody drifted softly through the trees, mournful yet captivating. It called to me gently, pulling at something deep within my chest. My heart fluttered anxiously, drawn inexplicably toward the unseen source. I resisted, stepping back, inside, locking the door firmly behind me. Still, the melody continued, floating persistently through thin walls, whispering softly through gaps in the wood. Then came the night of the storm. Wind howled mournfully through branches. Rain battered against walls in rhythmic sheets. The noise became a steady drone, entrancing yet unsettling. Inside, candle flames flickered erratically, casting elongated shadows that danced uneasily on walls. Midnight arrived heavy with dread. A sharp crack of thunder startled me. In that brief flash, through the window, a silhouette stood among trees, tall and motionless, outlined sharply by lightning. My breath halted, heart thumping in painful rhythm. As darkness returned, the figure vanished. Yet a heavy presence lingered, pressing in, invisible yet tangible. Cold seeped into my bones, deeper than simple chill. A shiver crawled up my spine, lingering at the base of my skull. Slowly, I opened the cabin door. The air was thick and charged. Rain fell steadily, pattering softly around me, cool droplets tracing paths down my face. The forest lay dark, its shadows stretching infinitely deep. Stepping cautiously forward, each footfall sank gently into saturated earth. Something shifted ahead, a subtle rustling, deliberate movements among dense underbrush. My skin prickled sharply, breath catching. In my throat, the melody returned, closer now, weaving hypnotically through raindrops and wind gusts. It grew louder, richer, wrapping itself gently yet tightly around my thoughts. My senses dulled, vision blurred softly at edges. Then suddenly it stopped. Silence pressed heavily around me, broken only by my uneven breathing and distant, soft dripping from soaked leaves. I waited, muscles tense, eyes scanning anxiously. The silence cracked open. A low, guttural growl emerged from shadowed trees, deep and resonant. My blood chilled instantly. The growl repeated, closer now, vibrating through the ground beneath my feet. Leaves rustled. Branches snapped quietly, something unseen moving deliberately toward me. I retreated hastily toward the cabin, heart pounding furiously. Behind me the growl deepened, expanding, an unnatural sound mingling with whispers that seemed to call my name softly, gently compelling my return. I slammed the door shut, bolting it quickly. Breath came ragged and uneven. I pressed my ear against the rough wood. Only silence remained, thick and oppressive. Dawn arrived slowly, pale and uncertain. I emerged cautiously, footsteps light and wary. The forest seemed normal, yet tainted. Trees loomed menacingly, their shapes subtly wrong, limbs twisted awkwardly. Something had shifted permanently within me. The mountains no longer felt tranquil or welcoming. Their beauty masked deeper, darker truths hidden among ancient roots and shadowed hollows. I packed hurriedly, hands trembling slightly. As I turned one final glance toward the cabin, my camera clicked softly, capturing an image I knew instinctively would reveal nothing yet imply everything. The photograph would blur reality further, lingering between known and unknown. I left the Appalachian mountains behind, but something followed silently. An unseen presence settled deep within my memory, whispering gently in quiet moments. Dreams, filled nightly with foggy shapes among rain-soaked trees, distant melodies drifting endlessly through twilight. The mountains hold secrets. Some are ancient, timeless, patient. They remain always, waiting softly, whispering subtly, until the weary wanderer is drawn gently back, lost forever among shadows. Story 2. My name is Daniel. I'm 37 years old. I work as a freelance writer, living in Asheville, North Carolina. I came to the Appalachian Mountains seeking solitude. I wanted quiet woods to clear my troubled mind. The forest offered peace, the air crisp and clean. My rented cabin stood alone, surrounded by dense trees. Each morning felt soothing, filled with gentle bird calls and rustling leaves. Fog curled softly through the branches, cool on my face. Pine scent lingered in the damp air, earthy and comforting. Everything seemed calm, a perfect retreat. After days of quiet routine, subtle changes emerged. One evening, distant sounds began drifting softly through the forest. A low hum, almost musical, yet strangely off-key. At first, I dismissed it as wind through hollow trees. Yet the sound continued nightly, floating gently through my window. Then lights began flickering in the trees. Soft, faint glimmers like distant lanterns bobbing quietly. Each flash brief, disappearing before I focused clearly. My heart tightened slightly with unease, confusion settling gently into my thoughts. I rationalized it as hikers, maybe distant campers exploring trails nearby. Days passed slowly, tension quietly building within me. Each twilight, the humming returned, deeper now, resonating softly beneath the forest sounds. The lights grew brighter, appearing closer to my cabin. Shapes began forming within their glow, indistinct yet disturbingly human. Shadows stretched long, swaying gently with unseen movements. Sleep turned uneasy, fragmented by restless dreams. Images lingered behind closed eyes, trees twisting silently, whispering softly to one another. I woke often, heart beating steadily, but faster. The nights became oppressive, filled with heavy silence punctuated by quiet rustlings nearby. My isolation grew suffocating, each day pressing heavier. Every sound amplified. Footsteps crunching softly on leaves outside my window. Branches brushing gently against cabin walls without wind. I sensed eyes watching silently from shadowed undergrowth, unseen, but steadily felt. Reality blurred slightly. At edges, doubts settling deeply into my thoughts. Then, the storm arrived quietly, rolling softly over distant mountains. Clouds gathered low and dark, pressing heavily against treetops. Rain began falling steadily, drumming gently on the cabin roof. The hum returned, louder now, mingling hypnotically with rain's rhythm. I stood by the window, senses heightened, nerves drawn tight. Lightning flashed softly, illuminating the forest briefly. My breath caught. A figure stood silently among trees. Tall, unnaturally still, silhouetted against the faint glow. As darkness returned, the figure vanished silently, leaving emptiness filled with quiet dread. My pulse quickened slowly, uncertainty gripping firmly. Unable to stay inside, compelled inexplicably, I stepped onto the porch. Rain dripped coolly onto my skin, soaking slowly through my clothes. A strange scent filled the damp air. Earthy, metallic, unsettling. The hum vibrated gently through my bones, pulling softly toward shadowed woods. I moved slowly, footsteps muffled by wet earth. Trees leaned in, their branches low and oppressive. The humming surrounded me fully, vibrating. Deeply within my chest, shapes appeared again, drifting silently through rain and mist. Pale forms, softly glowing, circling patiently closer. A cold sensation traced slowly down my spine. My muscles tightened involuntarily, breathing shallow and uneven. They moved without sound, gliding steadily nearer through thick fog. Features unclear, yet their presence deeply felt. Dread coiled heavily within me, thick and suffocating. Then suddenly, they stopped moving forward. They stood quietly, surrounding me loosely, waiting patiently. The rain continued falling softly, blending gently with their quiet humming. My heart pounded slowly, senses sharpening acutely. A sudden realization filled my thoughts. These were not human forms. Then one stepped silently forward, closer than the rest. Its shape elongated strangely, thin and shadowy. Eyes emerged dimly through, pale mist, large and reflecting softly. They met my own, holding steadily, deep and knowing. I felt an ancient consciousness regarding me calmly. Time slowed gently, suspended within that gaze. My mind filled slowly with images, mountains older than human memory, forests unchanged, through endless seasons, secrets hidden quietly among shadowed roots. Their humming grew soothing, hypnotic, drawing my consciousness softly outward. Boundaries blurred gently, becoming indistinct and meaningless. Yet fear lingered quietly beneath my calm acceptance. Something primal stirred deep within my instincts. I stepped backward hesitantly, breaking their quiet hold. Their humming faltered slightly, shifting subtly in tone. The shapes withdrew slowly, merging silently into mist and darkness. I stumbled back toward the cabin, limbs heavy, thoughts confused. Rain intensified slightly, washing gently over my trembling form. Inside, doors locked firmly. I sat motionless, waiting tensely. The humming faded slowly, receding softly into night's quiet depths. Morning came pale and cold, sunlight filtering weakly through fog. I walked slowly outside, senses numbed slightly, reality hazy. The woods felt subtly different, older, aware, silently watchful. Footprints circled quietly around my cabin, elongated and indistinct, evidence of something ancient and patient visiting silently. I left quickly afterward, but memories linger persistently. Dreams now filled nightly with drifting shapes, pale and quiet. Humming fills moments between sleep and wakefulness, gently calling me back. The Appalachian Mountains hold timeless secrets, whispering quietly beneath ordinary sounds. Sometimes, When rain falls softly at night, I sense them near again, watching silently from shadowed places, waiting patiently, endlessly. I know someday, compelled gently, I'll return willingly. The mountains claim their own slowly, softly, inevitably. My name is Lucas. I'm 34 years old. I work as a history teacher in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Every summer I venture into the Appalachian Mountains. It's my ritual for peace, solitude, and gentle reflection. This summer, my destination was deeper, more remote. An old cabin, secluded and shadowed beneath ancient trees. I sought quiet days and star-filled nights, untouched by noise. At first, everything felt familiar, comforting, even serene. Mornings woke me gently with birdsong and soft breezes. Damp leaves scented the air, fresh, earthy, and calming. My walks through winding trails were leisurely and calm. Sunlight filtered softly through branches, golden and warm. Evening fires crackled quietly, casting shifting shadows on cabin walls. Nights brought tranquil sleep, accompanied by soft rain and distant owl calls. Then came the first subtle shift, barely noticeable initially. One evening, as twilight deepened into velvet darkness, sounds shifted slightly. The familiar rustle of leaves felt thicker, heavier somehow. The woods grew quieter, pressing gently against my ears. A sensation lingered that I was not completely alone. The following night brought flickering lights in distant trees, pale glows drifting gently, appearing and vanishing quietly between trunks. They moved slowly, almost rhythmically, hypnotizing my gaze. My breath grew shallow as I watched silently from my porch. The air felt colder, heavier, tinged with a subtle metallic scent. It unnerved me softly, yet curiosity outweighed unease. Days passed quietly, tension whispering steadily beneath peaceful appearances. Footprints, faint and elongated, appeared gently around the cabin. Branches were subtly bent or broken overnight, twisted strangely. The gentle hum of cicadas became distorted slightly, rising and falling unevenly. My once comforting solitude began to feel isolating and oppressive. Sleep became elusive, restless dreams weaving quietly through my mind. I woke often, heart beating gently but uncomfortably fast. The moon cast silvery, uneasy shadows onto wooden floors. In that pale glow, shapes seemed to shift softly, edges unclear. I began questioning my senses, uncertain of what was real. Then came the evening of deeper unrest, skies heavy and gray. Mist rolled quietly across the forest floor, thick and silent. A steady drizzle dampened earth, filling air with moisture and chill. As darkness crept softly, I stepped outside, drawn inexplicably. Forward, my pulse quickened gently, anticipation mixing quietly with dread. Shapes emerged silently within misty twilight, drifting gently closer. Pale, slender figures, almost transparent in the fading daylight. They moved slowly, swaying gently in rhythmic patterns. I stood motionless, fear softly coiling within my chest. Their presence felt ancient, patient, and deeply unsettling. Suddenly, the rain intensified slightly, pattering heavily upon my skin. Cold seeped gradually into my bones, numbing yet strangely soothing. The figures paused softly, watching quietly, waiting patiently. A subtle humming rose from their midst, low, resonant, hypnotic. My thoughts grew hazy, consciousness drifting gently toward surrender, yet instinct stirred abruptly, shaking me slightly awake. My legs moved backward slowly toward the cabin door. Their humming deepened softly, disappointment lingering gently within its tones. I slipped inside quickly, bolting the door, heart racing quietly. Outside, they lingered silently, their presence pressing gently inward. That night felt endless, tense, and heavy with uncertainty. Every creak of timber resonated sharply through darkness. Whispering winds brushed softly against windows, murmuring indecipherably. I drifted uneasily, caught between waking and dreamlike states. Images flickered gently behind closed eyes. Mist, Figures, quiet humming. Near dawn, sudden stillness enveloped the cabin heavily. Silence thickened gradually, oppressing and profound. My breath felt loud within that unnatural quietness. Slowly, cautiously, I opened the cabin door once more. The world outside appeared different, subtly transformed overnight. Trees leaned slightly inward. Branches stretched oddly downward. The air hung motionless, damp, saturated with anticipation. Footprints surrounded me closely, shapes clearer now, strangely elongated. I felt observed, silently evaluated by unseen eyes. Then, from the shadows, one figure moved quietly forward. Its form was vague, shifting softly within gray mist. My body froze gently, heart slowing to quiet rhythmic beats. Its gaze locked calmly upon mine, ancient and knowing. I sensed no malice, only patient inevitability, deeply unsettling. The figure raised one slender arm slowly, pointing gently outward. My eyes followed instinctively toward a path previously unnoticed. A narrow trail winding softly into deeper shadows, waiting silently. I understood instinctively it was inviting me forward, deeper inward. Time stretched gently, a quiet eternity suspended softly between us. My feet moved hesitantly, compelled yet reluctant toward that path. But suddenly sharp instinct whispered urgently, "Do not follow further." Resistance surged gently through me, breaking the figure's hold softly. I stepped backward, braking, gaze retreating quickly inside again. Locking doors, heart thudding gently yet insistently. Outside, silence lingered thickly, disappointment palpable yet quiet. I remained awake, waiting uneasily for dawn's uncertain arrival. When daylight returned softly, normalcy seemed partially restored. Birds resumed gentle songs. Mist lifted quietly from trees. Yet subtle strangeness lingered persistently. Branches oddly angled, footprints persistent. The hidden trail vanished mysteriously, no longer visible to searching eyes. I packed hastily, leaving quickly beneath quiet morning skies. My drive home was silent, filled with quiet unease. But dreams now haunt softly each night, figures drifting quietly closer. Their humming lingers persistently, gently resonating within memory. Now, when rain falls softly at night, sleep remains difficult. Shapes flicker quietly at edges of my vision, patiently waiting. An ancient call whispers softly, beckoning gently, persistently from shadows. I feel someday, inevitably, the trail will return quietly, and this time, I fear softly. Resistance may fail entirely. My name is Nathan. I'm 31 years old. I'm a landscape painter from Savannah, Georgia. Each summer I travel north to the Appalachian Mountains. It's my ritual, escaping humid southern nights. I seek quiet trails, solitude, and inspiration beneath thick canopies. This summer I chose a remote section near Blue Ridge, a small cabin, isolated among deep, ancient trees. At first everything felt calm and deeply familiar. Morning mist drifted quietly through tall pines and oaks. The scent of damp earth mixed, gently with sweet blossoms. Birds chirped softly from distant branches, mellow songs blending with rustling leaves. Sunlight slipped softly through layers of green foliage. Painting came easily, my canvas alive with gentle, vibrant colors. Then subtle shifts began, quietly altering my surroundings. One evening, twilight lingered unusually long, heavy and gray. A faint humming drifted through thickening shadows, barely audible but persistent. It resonated gently, pulsing beneath normal forest sounds. I dismissed it initially as wind vibrating hollow trunks, yet the sound returned nightly, gentle and insistent. Soon, small lights appeared deep within the forest, pale, flickering softly between trunks, shifting in slow patterns. They drifted quietly, vanishing, then reappearing, always distant, yet unsettlingly rhythmic. Each night they drew subtly nearer, dim glows dancing hypnotically among shadows. Sleep turned restless, filled with vague unease and tension. Dreams twisted slowly, filled with mist and shadowed figures. My cabin felt increasingly isolated, distant from reality. Days blurred slightly, edged by uncertain perceptions and sensations. Shadows stretched oddly, shifting gently when viewed, indirectly. I felt watched constantly, unseen gazes pressing softly inward. Then came heavier events, deepening my growing discomfort. Footprints circled the cabin overnight, long and slender, oddly shaped. Bark peeled gently from trees, marking precise patterns in moist wood. Soft rustlings brushed against my cabin walls without explanation. The air thickened strangely, scented faintly of iron and decay. I began doubting senses, questioning subtly altered reality around me. Anxiety quietly tightened its grip, solitude becoming oppressive. Painting became difficult, colors appearing faded, lifeless, unreal. Brushes trembled slightly in my unsteady fingers, strokes hesitant, uncertain. The woods felt darker, colder, thick with invisible, patient presence. Then one night, as drizzle fell softly through heavy leaves, it happened. A low, rhythmic knocking began softly against my cabin door. Gentle taps, steady and deliberate, resonating through stillness. My pulse quickened slowly, blood turning colder beneath skin. The knocking persisted quietly, calmly, patient yet relentless. Slowly, almost compelled, I approached, heart beating unevenly. Opening the door slightly, damp night air rushed inward sharply. Shadows pooled densely outside, drizzling rain obscuring vision subtly. Then a figure stepped forward slowly from the darkness, tall, thin, unnaturally still. A pale face, faintly glowing in dim moonlight, watched silently. Its eyes locked with mine, deep, dark, endless. I felt pulled inward, consciousness drifting gently, boundaries dissolving softly. Time slowed quietly, suspended within hypnotic gaze. An ancient presence surrounded me, immense, patient, and quietly powerful. Its silent invitation whispered deeply within my mind. Instinct surged weakly, urging retreat, yet curiosity held me firmly. Slowly the figure lifted one long arm, gesturing gently toward the forest. My eyes followed, glimpsing a narrow trail, previously unnoticed, winding inward. It beckoned silently, calling softly from shadowed depths. Fear mixed gently with fascination, reality softly wavering. Then abruptly, lightning flashed softly overhead, briefly illuminating surroundings. The figure vanished instantly, dissolving silently into darkness again. Rain intensified slightly, pattering steadily against trembling leaves. Breath returning unevenly, I closed the door tightly, bolting locks. Inside, silence returned thickly, oppressive yet strangely comforting. I spent hours awake, mind heavy, uncertain, troubled deeply. Dawn arrived pale and misty, light barely penetrating gray clouds. I ventured cautiously outside, rain-soaked earth soft beneath feet. The hidden trail was now clearly visible, winding slowly, beckoning softly inward. Footprints, thin and elongated, marked the path clearly forward. I left quickly afterward, uncertainly packing my belongings with haste. Yet even miles away now, dreams remain filled softly with visions. Pale figures drift quietly through shadowed forests, humming gently. The trail appears nightly, waiting patiently, inviting me quietly back. I sense someday soon, willingly or not, I'll return. The mountains hold silent secrets, ancient, patient, eternally waiting. Now, when rain whispers softly through leaves, at night, dread returns. Shadows lengthen subtly, lights flicker softly. Unseen presences gathering closer. I know, deeply and quietly, this is not truly over. Somewhere hidden, deep within mist and shadow, it waits. My name is Oliver. I'm 35 years old. I'm a librarian from Knoxville, Tennessee. Each autumn, I hike sections of the Appalachian Trail alone. It's a ritual, to clear my head, to breathe deeply. I savor the solitude, the silence between trees and mountains. This year I chose a quiet stretch near Roan Mountain. Autumn painted leaves gold and crimson, whispering softly in the wind. At first everything was peaceful, familiar, serene. I walked slowly, savoring earthy scents and crisp air. Each step crushed fallen leaves beneath my boots gently. The rustle soothed me, rhythmic and calming. My tent nestled in a clearing, sheltered by tall, ancient oaks. Night brought a comforting darkness, velvet black and cool. Sleep came easily beneath distant stars and murmuring breezes. But by the third evening, subtle changes crept closer. Distant sounds emerged, faintly humming through thickening dusk. A low melody, soft and indistinct, carried through drifting fog. At first, I imagined wind singing through hollow branches, but it returned nightly, becoming clearer, louder, quietly haunting. I found myself straining, senses alert, breathing shallow. Then lights appeared, softly pulsing deep within the forest. Faint glows, pale and rhythmic, weaving between distant trunks. They vanished when I focused directly, reappearing in my periphery. Each night they drew slightly nearer, lingering longer, unsettling me gently. My chest tightened quietly each time I glimpsed them. Days grew heavier, the woods around me subtly shifting. Shadows lengthened oddly, shapes bending strangely beneath twilight's veil. The air thickened slowly, carrying a metallic tang beneath autumn leaves. My footsteps echoed softly, loneliness pressing gently but insistently inward. An unease settled, steadily, weighing down my thoughts. Sleep fractured into uneasy fragments of dreams and wakefulness. Visions flickered behind closed eyelids, figures drifting silently through fog. Faces indistinct, pale, features obscured by shifting darkness. Soft whispers murmured indecipherably, brushing gently against my ears. I woke often, heart pulsing slowly but insistently in quiet dread. One evening, dense fog settled earlier than usual, thick and oppressive. It curled gently around trunks, muffling sounds, swallowing the trail ahead. The soft melody rose again, clearer now, mingling hypnotically with fog. Curiosity and dread tightened gently inside my chest, pulling me forward slowly. I moved cautiously, through dense mist, feeling the air chill gradually. Shapes appeared silently, drifting through pale vapors around me. Slender forms, elongated shadows shifting rhythmically within the haze. My breath caught softly, pulse quickening gently, yet I moved forward helplessly. A subtle pressure built inside my head, whispering softly, insistently guiding me deeper into unknown territory. The path beneath my feet felt unfamiliar, winding in strange curves. Trees bent slightly inward, their branches hanging lower, brushing gently against me. Leaves rustled faintly overhead, but the melody drowned all natural sounds softly. Fog thickened further, until visibility shrank to mere feet ahead. Suddenly, figures encircled me quietly, emerging fully from dense mist. Their shapes thin, pale, impossibly tall, moving slowly in silent patterns. My muscles froze softly, consciousness hazed by humming vibrations filling air. They moved rhythmically, swaying gently. Faces blank, eyes hollow voids reflecting dimly. Slowly, one stepped closer, its presence emanating ancient, patient awareness. It reached toward me slowly, slender hand outstretched silently, gently inviting me forward. An overwhelming pull gripped my thoughts softly, consciousness drifting, resistance fading. Memories flickered slowly, forgotten whispers of mountains older than time. Yet, instinct flared weakly, urging retreat from this hypnotic embrace. With immense effort, I stepped backward slowly, breaking the figure's hold softly. Its hand paused. Silently, disappointment rippling quietly through surrounding mist. The figures receded slightly, fading gradually into shadows once more. The melody diminished gently, replaced by heavy, lingering silence. I stumbled backward hastily, heart hammering. Softly yet insistently, the fog thinned gradually, familiar trees returning quietly around me. My campsite appeared reassuringly ahead, moonlight illuminating scattered leaves softly. Inside my tent, trembling slightly, I listened carefully to lingering quietness. Sleep remained distant, dreams blurred by half-seen figures swaying gently. Morning revealed footprints circling quietly around my tent, impossibly elongated. Bark marked gently with precise patterns I couldn't decipher clearly. My chest tightened quietly, unease coiling gently yet insistently deeper. Packing quickly, I retraced my steps along trails now subtly unfamiliar. The path home felt longer, silence pressing steadily inward. Even now, returned safely to Knoxville, dreams remain restless nightly. Pale figures drift softly between sleep and wakefulness, humming quietly. Sometimes, walking alone, shadows stretch strangely, shapes twisting gently at edges. Distant melodies linger softly, pulling subtly at my consciousness, inviting return. Know deeply, quietly, the mountains still wait patiently, inevitably. One day, the urge to return will overwhelm softly, irresistibly. And when fog settles thickly once more, I fear gently, resistance may finally fail completely. My name is Adam. I'm 32 years old, a park ranger from Asheville, North Carolina. Each autumn I spend a week alone in the Appalachian Mountains. It's my escape, a quiet break from daily routines and crowded trails. The solitude here has always calmed me, the ancient trees whispering gently through twilight. I chose a small cabin this year, hidden among dense pines. It sat quietly at the edge of a silent clearing. From my porch, the mountains stretched softly beneath evening haze. At first everything felt familiar, serene, deeply comforting. I breathed cool mountain air, earthy with fallen leaves and damp moss. My days passed slowly, hiking narrow trails, photographing wildlife quietly. Sunlight sifted gently through branches, painting the forest in calm shades. Nights fell softly, filled with the rustle of leaves and distant owls calling. The cabin walls creaked gently with wind, a comforting lullaby pulling me toward sleep. But by my third night, subtle unease crept quietly into my bones. A low humming echoed gently through trees after sunset. It pulsed softly, rhythmic, barely audible beneath natural forest sounds. I first dismissed it, perhaps distant wind, or insects hidden in foliage. Yet each evening it returned, slightly, louder, clearer, persistent. Soon, small pale lights began flickering silently through distant trees. Glimpsed briefly through my cabin window, drifting gently between shadowed trunks. They vanished instantly when I tried to focus clearly, yet nightly they reappeared, subtly nearer, their slow dance unsettling my quiet thoughts. A faint chill crawled slowly down my spine. Sleep became fragmented, uneasy dreams of pale, drifting shapes. Figures moving quietly through foggy trails, featureless faces watching silently. I woke often, breathing shallow, pulse softly quickening. The walls of my cabin felt thinner somehow, shadows pressing gently inward. Each night deepened my uncertainty, isolation wrapping tightly around me. Days blurred into restless nights. My senses heightened softly. Quiet footsteps brushed lightly through leaves outside my window. Gentle scratching whispered along cabin walls, soft and deliberate. My reflection seemed unfamiliar, features subtly shifting, distorted by candlelight. Flickers. The humming intensified, resonating gently within my skull, persistent and hypnotic. One evening, thick fog rolled silently through the forest, dense and cold. The pale lights appeared again, brighter now, drifting nearer silently. Without fully deciding, I stepped outside, drawn inexplicably into the mist. It swirled quietly around me, chilling my skin softly, vision blurred gently. The humming vibrated deeply through me, guiding my hesitant footsteps forward. Shapes formed silently through dense fog, thin figures, unnaturally elongated. They moved slowly, rhythmically, swaying gently together in mesmerizing patterns. My heart beat faster, an instinctual dread coiling quietly within me. Yet my feet moved forward, compelled by their silent invitation. My mind drifting, I followed softly glowing shapes deeper into mist, trees looming indistinctly. Time blurred gently, consciousness drifting softly, sensations muted and distant. Then suddenly, I stood in a clearing I'd never seen before. A stone circle lay beneath my feet, ancient carvings etched faintly, obscured by moss and shadow. Figures circled silently, features blurred softly in mist, movements synchronized gently. Their humming deepened, vibrations resonating profoundly within my bones. I felt their presence ancient, patient, aware of my fragile humanity. My chest tightened softly, awareness sharpening briefly beneath their hypnotic song. One figure drifted, forward silently, taller, more vivid within dense mist. Its face remained hidden in shadows, eyes faintly glowing, deep, unreadable. My breath slowed gently, entranced yet fearful beneath its quiet scrutiny. It raised one slender hand slowly, pointing calmly toward me, beckoning quietly inward. My thoughts scattered softly, resistance flickering weakly beneath compelling calmness. A whisper echoed gently within my mind, wordless yet understood deeply. An ancient calling, timeless, inevitable, drawing me quietly forward. Yet instinct flared urgently, breaking softly through my trance. I stepped backward hesitantly, breath quickening again, heart thudding softly. The figure paused, silent disappointment flowing gently outward through humming vibrations. Fog thickened instantly, vision obscured once more, shapes retreating softly, fading gently into shadows. I stumbled backward quickly, disoriented, heart beating urgently within my chest. Suddenly familiar trails reappeared beneath my feet, mist thinning slowly. I reached my cabin breathlessly, locking doors securely, trembling slightly. Outside, silence pressed heavily, profound and expectant, lingering endlessly. I left early next morning, trails subtly unfamiliar beneath pale dawn. Returning home, memories blurred slightly, edges softened by distance and daylight. Yet dreams remain persistently filled with silent shapes, swaying rhythmically, humming gently through endless mist. Even now, quiet nights stir unease deeply within me, shadows subtly lengthening. The Appalachian mountains hold timeless secrets, ancient whispers softly waiting. I sense them patiently lingering, gently calling me inward once more. Someday soon, I fear, softly and inevitably, I will answer. My name is Michael. I am 40 years old. I am a photographer from Roanoke, Virginia. I came to the Appalachian Trail in early October. I wanted to document the changing leaves. This section of the trail was quiet, less traveled. I planned to spend a week alone. The weather was cool, skies soft and gray. Mornings smelled of damp earth and pine. My pack felt light, my steps unhurried. Each day I walked further into the forest. The air grew thinner, the canopy thicker. Leaves crunched gently beneath my boots. The hush of the mountains pressed around me. I welcomed the solitude. At night I camped near streams or in hollows. The sound of water lulled me to sleep. The cool air wrapped around my body. The fabric of my tent felt thin but safe. I slept well the first few nights. On the fourth night, I pitched my tent beneath a cluster of old maples. Their trunks rose like dark columns in fading light. I made a small meal, sat listening to the distant sounds of the forest. An owl called softly from somewhere above. Then I heard something else. A faint tapping, light and irregular. It came from the direction of the trail. I froze, listening closely. The tapping paused, then resumed. It was not a woodpecker. It was too slow, too uneven. I unzipped the tent and peered into the darkness. The trees swayed gently. The trail beyond was empty. I told myself it was nothing, the wind, a falling branch. Still, my sleep was shallow that night. The next morning, I continued onward. The sky remained overcast. The air felt heavier. My camera hung at my side, unused. I stopped often, listening. The forest seemed quieter than before. By late afternoon, fog rolled in. Thick bands of it drifted through the trees. Sounds grew muffled. My breathing seemed louder. I found a small clearing and set camp early. That night, the tapping returned. Louder this time. Closer. It circled the tent slowly. I held my breath, every muscle tense. The sound stopped directly outside. The fabric of the tent rippled as if brushed by fingers. Cold sweat slid down my spine. No footsteps, no voices. Just the faint ripple of nylon and the thick hush beyond. At dawn, the fog remained. It hung low, hugging the forest floor. Everything looked unfamiliar, as if the landscape had shifted overnight. My compass needle quivered, uncertain. The trail behind me seemed altered. I walked all morning without seeing a marker. No blazes, no signs. Only endless gray woods. The fog pressed close, dampening every sound. My own footsteps seemed distant, disconnected. Then I began to hear it again, not tapping this time. A soft humming. It came from somewhere deeper in the trees. A low, vibrating tone, neither voice nor machine. My chest tightened with each step. My legs felt heavy, my breath shallow. The hum grew louder as I walked. Shapes flickered at the edges of my vision. Pale forms, tall and thin, shifting between the trees. When I turned, they vanished. Yet the feeling remained. I was not alone. Late afternoon, my sense of direction was gone. The humming now pulsed through the ground. My feet vibrated with each step. I stumbled into a hollow ringed with massive stones. Their surfaces were carved, worn smooth by time. The humming ceased. Silence descended like a shroud. My ears rang, in its absence. Then I saw them. Figures emerged from the mist. Tall, elongated, their faces obscured by shadow. They did not walk. They seemed to drift. A cold wind moved through the hollow, though the air was still. One figure raised an arm, slowly. A thin, skeletal finger pointed toward me. My limbs locked, rooted to the ground. I could not speak, could not move. The humming returned, now inside. My head. It grew louder, deeper, drowning my thoughts. Images flashed behind my eyes. Forests older than memory. Stones marked with symbols. Shadows moving beneath the earth. I do not know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours, time seemed to dissolve. When I awoke, I was lying on the trail. The fog had lifted. The sun hung low behind the trees. The stones, the hollow, gone. No sign of them remained. My pack was at my side, my camera still in place. But every image on the card was blank, only static, no trees, no light. I made my way back as quickly as I could. The trail felt foreign beneath my feet. The sounds of the forest remained muted, distant. Now, weeks later, back in Roanoke, I wake at night. I hear the humming, faint beneath the quiet. Some mornings my compass still spins. The photographs remain empty. I do not speak of the hollow. I do not speak of the figures. But I know this. Something waits in those woods. Something ancient. Something patient. And it is not finished with me yet. My name is Evan. I'm 36 years old. I work as an environmental scientist in Charlottesville, Virginia. Each fall, I hike alone in the Appalachian Mountains. It is a way to reset, to breathe, to listen. This year, I chose a remote stretch near Clingman's Dome. I planned 5 days on the trail. The air was cool, the leaves just beginning to turn. A gray sky hung low over the mountains. Mist drifted lazily through the trees. At first, everything felt calm and familiar. My boots pressed softly into damp earth. The trail wound between towering oaks and tangled laurel. The scent of moss and wet bark filled the air. Birdsong echoed faintly through the canopy. A squirrel darted across the path. Water trickled somewhere unseen. I moved slowly, savoring the silence. Each breath felt crisp, my mind clear, my pack light. The forest embraced me in its ancient calm. The first night, I camped by a shallow creek. The air grew colder after dark. The sound of water lulled me to sleep. The stars were hidden behind a gauze of cloud. In the early hours, I stirred. Something had changed. The night was too still. No wind, no insects. Just the faint murmur of the creek. And then a sound, soft, slow, like footsteps in the leaves. I held my breath, listened. The sound faded. I told myself it was nothing. A deer, a stray branch. Sleep returned, uneasy. Morning light was dim and pale. The forest seemed untouched. Still, I felt watchful, as if the woods were waiting. I packed and moved on. The trail climbed higher. The fog thickened. The forest closed in. The second night, I camped beneath a stand of hemlocks. Their dark branches hung low, heavy with moisture. The ground was soft, spongy beneath my tent. That night, the sound returned. Not footsteps. Something slower. A dragging sound, faint but deliberate. It circled the tent, stopped, then moved again. I did not look, could not. My body tensed beneath the sleeping bag. The air inside the tent felt thin. My heart pounded slowly, too loud. Morning came with no answers. The forest silent, watchful. I found no prints, no marks, but the ground felt wrong beneath my boots. I told myself to continue. Only 2 days remained. The trail narrowed, winding, between steep slopes. Fog drifted like smoke between the trunks. I saw shapes in the mist, tall, still. Gone when I turned my head. The third night, I found no campsite. The fog was too thick. I pitched the tent on the trail itself. The air smelled of iron, the ground cold and slick. I lay awake, listening. The dragging sound returned, closer now, and another sound beneath it. A low hum, almost a voice, too deep to understand. The tent walls seemed thinner. The darkness pressed in. I could not move, could not breathe. Then the humming stopped. The dragging ceased. Silence fell like a weight. I do not know when I slept, but I woke to gray light. The tent, unzipped, though I had sealed it. My pack was untouched, but the earth outside was marked, long grooves, deep and straight, circling the tent in the mud. I tried to turn back, to follow the trail down, but the path behind me had changed. Trees leaned in, twisted where they should. No blazes, no markers, only fog, only silence. I walked until dusk. The trail seemed endless, each step heavier, my breath shorter, and then I saw it. A clearing that should not be there. Stones, tall and black, arranged in a perfect ring. The ground bare and smooth, no leaves, no moss. In the center, a figure, not a person. Tall, thin, draped in folds of shadow. No face, no eyes. It turned slowly as I approached. The humming returned, deep and cold. I could not stop moving. My legs carried me forward, unwilling. My heart slowed. My thoughts dulled. Closer, closer. The figure raised one long arm, pointed. Beyond the ring, into the trees. My body turned. My feet moved. I stumbled into the woods, breath shallow, pulse faint. The humming faded. I do not know how long I wandered. Hours, days, time lost meaning. The forest was endless. The path twisted. My compass spun. But somehow, I emerged, out of the fog, onto a gravel road. I followed it until I reached a ranger station. They asked where I had come from. I could not answer. Now I am home, but not whole. At night, I hear the humming. Beneath the rain, beneath my breath, I dream of the clearing, of the figure, of the path it showed me. And I know this. The trail is not finished with me, not yet. My name is Jacob. I'm 37 years old. I'm an archivist from Asheville, North Carolina. Each autumn, I return to the Appalachian Mountains alone. I come here to clear my mind, to find quiet solitude. The forest comforts me, whispering its gentle lullabies. I chose an isolated trail near Fontana Lake this year. The weather was cool and gray, the sky thick with mist. The trees stood ancient and silent around me. I walked slowly, savoring each crunch of leaves beneath my boots. The air tasted crisp, rich with damp earth and moss. Everything felt familiar, reassuring, gently welcoming. On the first night, I camped by a small stream. I pitched my tent carefully, beneath a cluster of tall maples. The water murmured softly nearby, soothing me to sleep. Darkness fell quickly, calm and velvety. Dreams came easily, deep and restful beneath rustling branches. In the early morning, before dawn, I awoke gently. Something had changed, subtly shifted. The stream sounded oddly distant now, muffled and faint. I listened closely, lying still in the darkness. A soft tapping began nearby, quiet but deliberate. It stopped abruptly, replaced by silence thick and deep. I told myself it was only falling acorns. Still, sleep came slowly, less restful than before. The next day passed quietly, but unease lingered softly. The woods seemed hushed, watchful around me. The sun remained hidden, clouds heavy and gray overhead. Occasionally, a soft rustle whispered nearby, unseen in the thick brush. Each time I paused, nothing moved, nothing stirred. As evening approached, a low hum filled the air gently. It rose and fell slowly, vibrating faintly in my bones. I tried to place the sound but failed. The source seemed everywhere yet nowhere, echoing softly. A chill traced along my spine, persistent yet subtle. I quickened my pace, eager to make camp before dark. I found a clearing ringed by tall, leaning pines. Their needles carpeted the ground softly beneath my feet. I pitched my tent quickly, movements hurried by anxious fingers. Shadows lengthened slowly, deepening beneath the trees. The humming persisted, louder now, insistent yet gentle. Darkness fell completely, cloaking the clearing in shadow. The hum deepened steadily, pressing softly against my ears. Pale lights flickered dimly among distant trees. They drifted slowly, fading in and out silently. Each pulse of light brought quiet dread, tightening my chest. I lay awake, senses sharp and anxious. My heartbeat echoed slowly, rhythmically within my ears. The tapping returned, closer this time, louder against the tent fabric. It circled slowly, pausing near my head. Breath shallow, muscles tense, I waited silently. Eventually it faded again, replaced by the deep hum. By morning, exhaustion lingered thickly within my bones. Outside, footprints encircled my tent clearly in the damp earth. Long, thin prints, unnatural and distorted, marking careful circles. I packed quickly, heart beating unsteadily beneath heavy ribs. The woods around me felt unfamiliar now, subtly changed. As I walked onward, unease deepened with every step. The trail narrowed, winding between trees bent oddly inward. Branches reached down softly, brushing against my face and shoulders. Leaves rustled faintly, whispering gently as I passed beneath them. I felt eyes watching, unseen but deeply felt. That night, fog settled heavily, obscuring everything nearby. Visibility reduced to only a few feet ahead. The humming became constant, rhythmic, hypnotically drawing me forward. I stumbled into a clearing I've never seen before. Large stones stood silently around its perimeter, worn smooth. At its center waited a figure, tall and thin. It stood perfectly still, wrapped in shadowy mist. My feet moved forward involuntarily, softly crunching leaves beneath me. The humming grew louder, filling my mind, drowning out thoughts clearly. Closer, I saw, its pale face featureless yet staring. Suddenly, it raised a thin arm, slowly pointing towards me. An intense coldness washed over me, numbing and profound. Images flickered softly behind my eyes, dark tunnels, deep earth, ancient roots twisting slowly, silently beneath the mountains. a profound, timeless sense of something ancient watching. With great effort, I broke free, stumbling backward awkwardly. The humming faltered briefly, replaced by a sudden, pressing silence. I turned quickly, running blindly through dense, choking fog. Branches clawed gently at my skin, air heavy and oppressive around me. When clarity returned, I stood alone again, breathing heavily. The fog slowly thinned, revealing familiar trees and trails nearby. I found my campsite quickly, untouched, everything in place perfectly. The humming had faded now, leaving only thick silence behind. I left early the next morning, unsettled deeply within myself. Back home, sleep remains difficult, haunted softly by dreams. Pale figures drift silently between shadowed trees beckoning gently. The humming returns faintly, whispering subtly within quiet rooms. Something ancient lives within those mountains, patient, watchful, eternal. It waits quietly among shadows and mist, endlessly patient. One day soon, I know deeply, I will return. And next time, resistance may softly fail, quietly slipping away forever.